Oh, yeah. We made it through another week. I did some research. I'm right, as per usual. We'll discuss that here in a little bit. We're Almost Agreement at gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. Go to our website, almostagreement.com. While you're there, just check out what we're doing. We're going to do stuff and keep doing things and whatnots and who's its and keep talking to all the people we can talk to and talking shit about things that we don't know any better than, and so we do. So, favorite podcast right there. Like, Fred, follow, share, Facebook, Twitter. I'm sorry, Facebook, X, YouTube. I'm not really ever active on our X page, so I guess I don't feel particularly bad about not remembering that we have one. So anyway, almostagreement at gmail.com and almostagreement.com. That's the best way to get a hold of us. Shoot me some emails. Jennifer Owen yelled at me a little bit. Fair enough. But we'll talk about that among other things. Mug shots and other fun stuff. So anyway, Almost Agreement. Here we go, people.
Remix.
Everybody.
Hey.
What's happening with you?
Oh, not too much.
Anything new? Anything exciting? What do you want to tell the people? All the people need to know all sorts about what happened since last time you were here.
Something happened?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking.
Oh, yeah.
Did something happen? Is there anything exciting you want to share?
Nah, just struggling with this fucking heat.
It is fucking hot. It's real hot.
Yeah.
Like yesterday.
You ain't gonna tell me.
Yesterday, did it rain on you at work yesterday?
It sprinkled for like 20 minutes, and that was about it.
It poured a bucket or two on the Central store because that's where I was. It poured it was a solid rain for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And when it started, we're like, holy shit, it's raining. I don't remember I don't remember anything about rain or anything
Same
happening.
thing. I was like, yeah, that's the one forecasting. What the hell?
And then we all kind of look at each other and go, it's going to stop very soon.
Yeah.
And that sun's going to come back out. And that miserable that it was is just going to be more miserable.
That's exactly
what happened. And it was awful.
Went outside, let a friend know that his car windows were down.
I don't know.
It'll
steam out before he gets out of the car.
I was like, well, I didn't know. I didn't know if it was going to be like a really quick, downpour, like what you experienced, or if it was just. I was like, it's just sprinkling right now. I was like, but it looked pretty dark, a good bit around us.
That was the weird part. I just kind of looked up and it was dark outside. I was like, what's going on? And then it poured for a couple minutes, and then it stopped and the sun came back out.
Yeah. He was like, oh, maybe it'll cool us off. I was like, no. I was like, it's just gonna. Not much is going to happen, and the sun's going to come right back out, and it's just going to kick up the humidity.
And we're all going to melt and die.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the weather for the week, everybody. Thanks for hanging in.
It's your weather. Here's what's happening in your neck of the woods.
Thanks, Al Roker.
It was an Al. Shit, what was his name? What was the guy right before Al Roker?
I know who you're talking about. When I think
that was the guy that kind of started that saying.
Roker did it too, and he was the full-time weather guy.
Yeah, I think he just kind of continued. Walter? No. Damn.
The old guy.
Yeah.
The old weather.
Today Show?
Yeah.
Today Show. I think he was the one that started that,
Willard Scott.
Willard Scott. Yes.
Thank you, Googles.
Thanks, Google.
You're so smart. Whatnot.
I don't know if it was he that started, but I think it started with him, at least, the whole celebration of people that made it to 100 years old. Or
the
102.
Schmuckers.
The Schmuckers thing.
Schmuckers 100 Century Club or whatever they call it. I mean, hell, he's still alive, I believe. He might get there.
That's surprising. He seemed in pretty good spirits.
Yeah.
Happy life?
I guess. I don't know. I don't know much about him other than he was the guy on the Today Show back in the day. He said some, more journalism interviews, and maybe not journalism, but entertainment. I saw one interview he did that was somebody referencing it, and they were showing clips from an interview that he did of maybe it wasn't Michael Jackson, but it was somebody from that era that was a big pop star.
Huh. Oh, yeah, I don't think I saw any interviews that he ever did.
Yeah.
I just thought he was the weather guy.
Maybe more recently, there was one with Jack White that I just saw a commercial for because it's a coming up thing. I don't know why I'm going to find that here. Anyway.
You might.
7 Nation Army in the house from hell. When I catch up my way. Anyway, he was talking. Anyway, it was a commercial for whatever's coming up, and he was talking about the process of his process in writing stuff. Yeah.
What does that have to do with the Will Scott interview? Oh,
I thought he was the one doing the interview. If I recall
I highly doubt that, because he's got to be getting up there. Like he was old like 20 years ago when he was doing it.
Yeah, it's true. Hey, I don't know. Anyway, that was that.
Anyway, that was look at the weather.
So, and I don't understand the news. I just don't understand their thought process. I get it. Yes, it is an insanely historical moment yesterday, but I would still rather watch my rerun of Jeopardy. I was pissed off that they interrupt Jeopardy.
Oh, they interrupted it?
Yeah. Like 7:30 on the dot. NBC News special report, and they've got helicopters flying around Georgia or Fulton County, Georgia. Then there's the motorcade. I mean, it could have been like you've seen the footage 1,000 times. It just happens to be the destination that's the interesting part in this one, because it's like 5 black SUVs with like 25 motorcycle cops leading the way,
right.
And 3 or 4 state troopers on either end of the motorcade, and then the motorcade itself. And they had a Sprinter van and all sorts of shit. It was and so like they pull up to the jail, and there's an awning, and so like 4 of the SUVs go under the awning, 4 don't. So I'm assuming part of the process is they do the multiple SUVs, so you don't know which one he is in.
Right.
Regardless of the president, it's not a Trump thing. It's a
right.
former president thing. Period. Right. And so 4 go under the awning and 4 stay out. So he's not in the 4 that stayed out. And so like you don't see anything. So it's just a picture of the top of this jail in Fulton County, Georgia. The president's in there, we think. We're being told. This is the plan.
Yeah.
And then everybody's all excited about the mugshot, and it's like...
Yeah, I don't get the whole like helicopter, like you're following like a high-speed chase or something.
Yeah. And again, like I understand, I respect the fact that it is a historical moment. It's never happened in the history of blah, 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 blah. Former president, future presidential candidate, this, that, and the other.
And 4th time now.
Right, for this one, it's like it's old news already. You're right. I mean, this one is a little bit different and special because it's a state. The state of Georgia it's the state of Georgia against President Trump instead of the federal government against President Trump, which changes some of the little dynamics of what's going on.
Few things that he can't pardon himself from if he becomes president again.
And so there's this crazy weird dynamic going on, but it's like, yeah, again, I was just like, okay, you could have been like, hey, Trump's on his way right now, shown some pictures and moved on. But they spent like the whole 30 minutes of Jeopardy talking about it. The NBC legal analyst, blah, 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 is here to tell us about this. We've been talking about this shit for a month. You're not going to say anything new right now.
Was it supposed to be a rerun anyway?
Yeah, I knew it was a rerun.
Oh, okay.
They're in between seasons. Like this is the
maybe that was their.
This is the break. But that's what I'm saying. I'd rather see a Jeopardy I've already seen than watch that shit for 30 minutes. Like I said, like if it was quick, if they would have popped in and be like, "Hey, this is what's happening. Here's the presidential motorcade going to the prison. He's going to the prison. Anything exciting happens, we'll let you know." Cool, that's fine. But to basically make another news hour out of this thing that.
Right.
There's nothing to see.
I could see like a 5-minute news break of like, hey, he was just booked, blah, blah, blah. We're done.
Right.
More news at 11.
Right. There's a whole segment they did on this jail in Fulton County, Georgia is currently under investigation from the U.S. Justice Department for like humanitarian civil rights issues for its inmates.
Yeah, conditions, yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, it's supposed to house like 700 and there's like 1,400 guys in there. And it's some among other things, roads just like some guy apparently died from bed bugs that were so bad, is what they were saying on the news story.
Yeah, it was kind of I know what you're talking about.
I didn't know the story or whatever, but it's like okay, again, like that in and of itself is a crazy story and should be on the news, but shouldn't interrupt something I'd rather. I tuned in to watch Jeopardy. Don't interrupt me with some bed bug story in an Atlanta prison. Yeah. I don't care. I do care that the former president is going to there to turn himself in. Check heard. I see that it's happening. Back to my show, please. Like I can, like it really bothers. Like it really.
I can see like a 5-minute spot of like after it was over, it was like, hey, he was just taken in, mugshot was taken,
right?
Yeah.
Which
like
now,
I said, like more news at 11,
and everybody's making a big deal about the mugshot. Which again, yes, it is a historically important thing that it's actually happened officially.
I think it's the first one he's actually done.
It's kind of weird that they did one, realistically.
Yeah.
What's the point of a mugshot? So you have a
evidence
picture on record of what the person looks like.
Right.
we're pretty sure we have a bunch of pictures of this guy. We have official U.S. documentation that's available that you could get a picture of.
There's some good impersonators out there too.
That's true enough, but that doesn't change. That doesn't help. That doesn't change the factoid of what we're talking about here. And so it's just like, I don't know. I get why you do it because it's part of the thing. You treat him like every other criminal, except you shut down half the fucking city to get him there. But you treat him like every other criminal. You give him access on a different entry point than anybody else that ever goes in there does. Because that's one of the things that, like, that's one of the things they were talking about. It's like, normally you bring him in the front, but this is the back entrance and this, that, and the other. And it's like, well, so he's not being treated like any other normal person getting processed.
He is to an extent, as far as him getting booked in. He's not getting special treatment as far as the process of getting booked in. But yes, because he is a secure target.
Right.
They have allowed him to come in the back entrance versus like, no,
right.
you got to come through the
front
doors.
And he was in and
like
out
everybody else.
He was in and out in like an hour where normal people are there for like 12 hours when they're getting processed and stuff like that. But, just a normal guy. I don't know. It's not that big a deal. I don't really give a shit. I'm just throwing.
Obviously, you do because they treated him special, but don't treat him just like everybody else. But he got special treatment, but they're just going to treat him like everybody else.
Again, when you're interrupting my Jeopardy with the narrative that they're just treating him like everybody else, but then they're not.
Sorry.
It's not really.
I'm
going to wham about it. That's what I'm doing. That's what we've been doing for the whole 11 minutes of the show so far. Is me wham about missing Jeopardy yesterday.
My Jeopardy.
These are the facts, people.
Don't get me wrong. I love some Jeopardy.
I do too. I think Ken Jennings is the perfect host. Other than after Alex. Not Alex was the perfect host.
I think LeVar Burton would have been great.
LeVar Burton could have been very good. And I think because I think LeVar Burton hits a couple of the key factors that I think are important. I think the thing about Ken Jennings that makes him so good is that at least for like Alex was always there. And so I always had the like Alex may know the answer to this question. Right. It's not him just reading the cue card. Like
I was just thinking the same thing.
And Alex threw a little dirt every once in a while. Like, come on, guys, it was King George III. What are you thinking here? Like he had that little bit of like sass sometimes.
Right.
And it worked because you believed he was capable of knowing it.
Right.
And Ken Jennings is absolutely capable of knowing it. And you can't, like, it's just, that's what I like about him as a host. And he's kind of funny when, like, because what the reruns are the Tournament of Champions. And so, like, you had a number of pretty substantial champions in this past season that had long runs, but nowhere close to his. And so, like, he kind of throws some jabs in there about, you had a pretty good run, not this good a run.
Oh, did you only do 23 days?
Yeah. 23 days, sort of.
That must have been nice. I wish I didn't spend that much time with my family. Yeah.
Right. Awful impressive to some people, I guess, that kind of stuff. Right. But he's always been kind of fun about it. He cussed on everyone in the tournament, too.
What?
Yeah, they did a category. It was some sort of numbers category, and each of the answers was, okay, so this Tournament of Champions, this last season, they had 3 super champions. And so when they did the tournament, they did it a little differently. And so they gave these 3 super champions that were long run people an automatic bid to the tournament. And then they had the play-in rounds and all this kind of stuff because they do it all complicated bracket shit. And so as kind of for fun, but also for fairness, they gave the super champs an exhibition game one day where they did it and they aired it and they played the normal game, but it didn't matter who won. They were all in. And so it was really, I think it was a day fill in the way they had broken it down. But so they're playing the games, and one of the categories was numbers, like it was some sort of numbers answers and stuff like that. And the 200 point, like each clue, the answer was the same as one of the people's win streak.
Huh.
And so when they get to the end of the category, he's like, I don't know if you guys noticed, but the answers were 40, 73, and then 186 or whatever Ken's was. But he started telling that little category ending story, and there's one clue left, and he goes, oh, shit. And they bleep it out, and then he do the last clue, and he's like, all right, I'll do it again. And it was really, it was another one of him. It was him doing the stab at, you guys are good champions, but not this good.
Right.
Because that last category, or the last clue in the category was the 100 and whatever days that he was.
He just ruined it.
Yeah, and he ruined his own joke. It was really funny. Again, love me some Jeopardy. So, Presidents in Jail. What did we have this week? I forgot already. I was too busy whining about Jeopardy to remember what happened local.
India landed a rover on the moon. Russia crashed a rover on the moon.
Oh, the Belk story. Have you followed the Belk story anymore at all?
No idea what you're talking about.
Brooklyn Belk, who was the cultural, the I don't know what the title was anymore, but it was supposed, like, she was supposed to be the head of the KPD's efforts to try to clean up the cultural issues that they have and the racism and blah 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 inside the department. She quit a couple weeks ago. We talked about that. Yeah. So in the Sunday Sentinel, they had a big piece on it, front page piece in the Sentinel on it, and like some excerpts from. So like it kind of all stemmed from an email, and apparently this person with the email has been active on this anonymous email account very regularly with city officials, and is a racist douche canoe. So he's all the way at least confirmed same email address, assumed same person, all the way back to the Rogero's first term. That this person has been actively emailing
just going back
elected officials. So this is the end of Kincannon's first term right now, so that's 4 years, and so somewhere in 10 years ago or so that this person is at least confirmed, or this email account has been confirmed to be active in emailing racist ass shit to city officials and police department and stuff like that for a decade.
Just to their like city email addresses?
Yeah, to their public email. And so apparently like a lot of, and I don't know what the rules are legality wise on it, but a lot of the offices have blocked that email address. Like those emails don't come in anymore.
Yeah.
But Brooklyn Belk's email was new and they didn't block it automatically. I don't know what the rules are with that kind of thing. And so the complaint from Brooklyn, indirectly at least, because she hasn't come out and said anything other than a quit. Like she has not talked about it since. She's gone. She left. Yeah. She's done. But the inference is that in some emails obtained by New Sentinel, there's a bunch of emails between Belk and Kincannon, Belk and Noel, and then the three of them in the same email chain. The inference is that it's not so much that the email was vile, and that it's not even so much that the KPD didn't go after whoever sent the email, because technically speaking, it's First Amendment right. You're an asshole, but you can still say it, even in an email. There was no specific threat into it. It
right,
was just
there's a line.
It was like Jewish space lasers, and you're part of the conspiracy to kill the white people off, and all this kind of bullshit. Like a bunch of racist bullshit. But nothing specifically saying I'm going to do something to you because you're part of the thing.
Right.
Just you're bad people. And so so where I'm confused and trying to read the stories and trying to catch up on it is the real complaint for Belk is that the way the other parties around her reacted to it. And I'm not sure if it's that Belk expected there to be some criminal investigation into this, or if Belk expected at least a little bit more support from other officers, other top officials, whether in the mayor's office or the KPD or something like that, to be more supportive of her in her dealings with this person, because so subsequently that email got blocked from her account too, so that guy couldn't send her any more emails.
Right.
But the way the story reads, at least, is that email and the series of events that followed it is why she quit. And the series of events being that the actions taken by other officers and other of the top brass in KPD, as well as in the mayor's office, didn't fit with what she expected. Especially with her being the head of the office charged with trying to fix some of the cultural and racial issues. And it's like, right. Well, okay, but wouldn't that flag some of the stuff that you need to work on? Like, hey, people, this is something that you need. Like, I understand it doesn't affect you personally. This came to me, but this is the cultural issue here is that you're okay with that. I'm not saying you praise it, but you're indifferent to it, and you're just going to kind of leave it open.
Right.
Like to me, that says that's the thing that we need to work on. We need to work on this, which I always took cops as the type that behind the thin blue line, we're all in this together kind of shit. And I'm sure there's divisions inside, especially with IA and stuff like that. But I always kind of assumed that most cops were like, unless there's something specifically awful about a particular individual cop, we'll lie and do whatever we have to do to protect our own. That was always my assumption.
Right. Whatever.
But apparently that's not the case.
Oh,
and that's the cultural issue.
Aren't corrupt and won't just lie to cover each other's backs.
Okay, maybe. I don't know. That's not the point.
You said that was your general assumption.
That was my general assumption, but that's not the point of where we're at in this. Where we're at in this is that you would think that the family atmosphere and the friends and the cover each other's asses kind of deal, which is my assumption. I don't know if it's true or not, but that assumption would lead to, okay, well, somebody was being rude to our officer. I'm going to support her in the process and help her through this situation. I'm not going to just be like, yeah, whatever, dude's a dick and move on.
I wonder if it was more of the fact of, like you said, they've been receiving emails from this guy for 10 or 15 years. They're like, oh, yeah, that's just so-and-so.
Right. Which is a weird...
He's been doing that for a long time. Yeah, and at the same time, yeah, but...
Right,
it's one of those weird things of, like, you know, you see something vile that often, eventually you do start to kind of normalize it to an extent.
Right. But I mean, like, it should... like
that's where it gets dangerous, when you do start just normalizing that type of
like, maybe that's
You're like, oh, that's just what people do sometimes. And it's like, well, no, that's not what should be done.
Maybe that's what they need to do is, like, in the first day manual, it's like, here's a list of emails, just don't read if an email comes in from this person. Like, just have, like, a running blacklist of email addresses that you know are those guys. But apparently, like, you could, like, I don't know what the guy, like, I don't know the email address, but the word on the street is that if you can get a hold of the email address and email the guy, he'll email you back and say some racist shit directly to you.
Fun.
If you want it. But so that's the story as I understand it, at least from the different, you know, versions of the story that have been going around.
All right. I'm sure there's more to it.
I don't know. Like, I think again, like, I think the problem to me with it is that it's a, like, there's a little bit of me that's like, there's you had to have some expectation taking this job that you were going to get some heat from some different places. Maybe this wasn't a place that you expected to get heat from, and that was what's so off-putting about it. But you had to know. I mean, the job was to try to fix these cultural divides, and so I would think that you would go into it kind of knowing that, you know, there's some stuff that, while my job is to try to normalize this and make this a more cohesive environment for people to work together in, well, if my job is to make that happen, that means it doesn't exist currently. And so why would you expect it to work that way if your job is to fix it? Because you haven't had time. She's only been there for a couple months.
Right.
You know, like, I don't know. And again, she hasn't said anything, so we don't know exactly in her take on it. And maybe there is something specifically that there is no record of that was said in direct conversation with somebody else that was really the tip-off. That was just like, you know what, this is the job, you got to fucking deal with it. And she didn't like that answer. I don't know. Yeah. That could have been what happened. And
I said, I'm sure there was more to it.
But I don't know.
Than just this one guy and then the response to just this one guy. I'm sure it had to have been more than that.
I mean, I guess
people in that position are not going to give up that position because of, like, one small incident.
Right. And I think
it's not really a small incident.
I think it was a realization of how big the job actually is going to be. That's what I think it was. I think it was came in here. Yeah, we're going to do this thing and we're going to work on it, and we're going to put some initiatives in place and all this kind of stuff, and, you know, maybe a little bit bright-eyed going into a situation, and the email itself was gross or whatever, but then everything that happened in response to it made it crystal clear how massive the job that she was being asked to do actually is. And it was just like, you know what? I'm not going to go down the road for 2 or 3 years banging my head against the wall in this job. I just don't, you know, I don't think I could do that, and I don't think that's going to do me any good or this department. I'm out.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been of, like, you know, anything that she, you know, suggested of ways to, you know, corrective actions. They were like, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that either. It's like, well, what did you hire me to do? Yeah. Never mind. Like, you wanted me to come up with ideas of how to fix this, and this is what I'm bringing to you. Yeah. I mean, it could have been something to that. It's like, you know, the solutions that she saw was not something that KPD saw as viable solutions or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, but I don't know, like, I guess if we're going to back it up a little bit, do we as a citizenry have a right to know? Like, do we have a right to know what's going on in this kind of situation? Because it's not something particular. It's not a criminal issue.
I don't think so.
Okay. I mean, again, like, I respect her right to try to be private about her situation, but at the same time, it's a public office, it's public dollars paying for it.
Specifics, but I mean, usually with things like that, I mean, it's good to let the public know. It's like, hey, you know, we have this police advisory board, or we've had this, you know, neighborhood watch team that's put together. Usually, it makes both sides look good. It lets the community know, like, hey, we're doing something.
Because that's what kind of concerns me as the story kind of continues to unfold, is that we're not getting any more, we're just getting less. We're getting what you know, the good reporting that News Sentinel went and got, because they had to go get it through emails and stuff like that, and they had to go get it through, I don't know if it was FOIA request or what. I don't think it was one of those that American Canon or Chief Noel was like, here's some stuff for you guys to read and figure it out. I think it was, here's the stuff you asked for because I have to give it to you.
Possibly.
I don't know the answer to that. I'm guessing, just to be clear, but I'm comfortable saying that I think that is what happened. I hedged that at least twice, right? 3 times?
maybe.
I put a couple hedges in there. I'm not trying to state a fact. Special session got rolling, and it's already over, sort of. You followed that shit?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I think they had planned for it to close Thursday. I think I saw something about like the Senate had already
Senate's done. They don't want to do it
made their
anymore.
calendar through Thursday, basically.
Yeah. They have to come back. They don't have a choice. Yeah. But they're not happy about it.
I read one guy bought an ostrich egg to emphasize that. I think it was against the Senate that they were just like sitting on an egg. I'm not quite sure what the euphemism was supposed to be. But it was that lovely jackass that tried to pants the fucking high school basketball referee.
Faison.
Apparently he's like I think he's like one of the House caucus leaders. I'm sorry, that motherfucker needs to step down.
Yeah, not my rep, so I can't. I have no opinion. What? Okay, so in the little post, the little tag that I did on the end of last week's episode, the little chat I had with the Compass guys about, how it's becoming more regular. The most interesting part of that to me in chatting about it, and I think I said it, is essentially Scott kind of said, well, if it's really important and we really want to have a good discussion about it, they have to do it in special session, which basically admits that they're not really putting a lot of effort and energy into the shit during a regular session because there's too much going on. And it's like, why couldn't they have done this then? I understand that it was like, for Governor Lee's sake, it was at the tail end of the session and it was squeezing it in there at the end. But if it was important, they could have done it then and got it over with. It was clear the Republicans weren't going to do it anyway. I still have questions about the motivation of Governor Lee and his long-term politics, but I don't know what's going on with that. But then even that, Governor Lee puts it out, and they can only discuss bills that are inside the scope of what the proclamation from the governor was. Like you can't, I couldn't call up Massey and be like, hey, put a bill in for this about some road work. See if you can't earmark a couple of bucks for getting North Shore repaved this year.
Right, while they're doing this current special.
Because the special session has to be under whatever the special topic is. And North Shore road work is not inside the scope of this special topic.
That's why they talked about certain subcommittees weren't going to be meeting.
Right, because there's no point, because there's nothing that falls inside the scope. And even in that, even in the official proclamation, it was of what we were at least sold on the idea of what this special session was going to be about. There's only two items that really kind of hit the gun control mark. One is the continuation or extension or some sort of thing with the no sales tax if you buy a gun safe.
Heard about that part of it.
It was something they did last year in 22 session.
I thought they already did that.
Right. And I guess it was for a year, and then the special session is going to add another year to it. But apparently also in that there's a free lock. So just a little like the trigger locks.
Okay.
You can go buy, you can go to somewhere, maybe the police department, I don't know exactly what it is, but you can go there and they'll just give you one if you ask for it.
Yeah.
Which, okay, that's a cool feature. If you want one and affordability of a gun lock is an issue for you, but you want to have one, go get one. That's cool.
Yeah.
But then there's that, and then there's like a special mental health whatever, and then there's some mental health facilities conversation, which is what Kyle Ward and some of the commissioners were trying to send a letter to be like, hey, yeah, please do something on the mental health stuff and send us some money so we can build a fucking mental health facility here.
Yeah.
But it's just been a complete ostrich age, I guess. I don't quite understand the analogy either, but it's been the lame duck of nothingness.
I guess that one jackass's viewpoint was basically, I don't know if it was all just for show, but apparently the House was putting for all these bills that the Senate just never took up. And that was his big sticking point. And he was like, Senate's not doing their job. We're bringing all these things to them for us to try to, concur upon. And the Senate's just not even taking up these bills that we're, providing to them.
Right. Yeah. I guess if it was for the politics only of it and Governor Lee's trying to stick it to, I just don't know if I buy that it's going to have any actual political gains. I don't think a Faison or a Lafferty, or maybe not a Lafferty, I always throw him on accent, or a Zachary, sorry. Faison or a Zachary or a spiky hair dude. I don't think this is going to cost them in the next election cycle. And so, realistically...
Maybe that's why they don't want to put a major stance upon it. I don't know.
Well, I think the play that Governor Lee tried to play was, all right, we're going to make this a focal issue. You don't get to hide behind your subcommittees doing this thing over here on the road projects, or you're in the subcommittee on this other thing over there, and you don't have time and energy to spend on that. That's the point of the special session, is you don't have the excuse to be like, well, I don't know yet. I'm still doing some research on it. You can't play that game. Mm-hmm. It's the only thing in front of you. And the hope would be, from the Governor Lee side of it, would be that puts pressure on him to do something, or that pressure will affect their future campaigning capabilities because it's an issue that's important to Tennesseans. Because the data backs it up, but the elections won't.
Well, I know the Nashville shooting kind of caught home for him. It was like one of his wife's friends.
Very good friend. Yeah.
At the same time, I'm reluctant to think he really gives that much of a shit about what he's asking them to do.
That's what it seems
I think
like.
I said it before. I think it's more for optics. That way he can be like, "Hey, I tried. I convened our state congress. In the middle of the summer. When they're supposed to have their time off, and I had them come together and have a meeting of the minds. And they just couldn't come to consensus. But I tried."
Right. No, I agree. But I don't know who is he? The politics part is, who's he telling that to? And I think realistically, the only person he's telling that to is his wife. Because politically, it's not.
It may just be keeping up his image, period, for whatever he wants to go on and do.
Yeah,
I don't know if he has more political things, but there's many other high-profile things he can do.
I don't think he has a future in politics, or he wouldn't have done it.
Chancellor at a university, or whatever. But at the same time, leading right up to it, one of the last things you do, you don't want to have bad optics in your PR department,
right? But you also don't want the last thing you do to be a loser, so that doesn't help.
He's not a loser. He tried. He has no say. I guess he could do an executive order, maybe.
No. Not with any teeth. I don't think the governor of the state of Tennessee has that kind of power. They do have some executive authority, but not like that. Not to actually change anything on the books. It would be like procedural stuff that's underneath. It's the same as the presidency, sort of. But all the different...
even presidential executive orders can have some pretty wide sways.
Yeah, but they're all over... all the presidential executive orders are... It's like a memo from the boss to his subordinates. It's not writing law. It's that Justice Department needs to do X. That's the executive order, and the Justice Department answers to the White House. I don't know how in this way the state of Tennessee is set up. I don't know if the Tennessee Department of Revenue answers to the governor's office or answers to the legislature. I don't know that part of how the state constitution is written.
I want to say part of the border wall during Trump's tenure was an executive order.
Right, but it's used. But the big pull, the big. But again, Homeland Security or ICE.
Right, which it included many different things, and you're dealing with international borders. Right,
but the execution of the tasks are under the executive branch. So it is it's the bunch of different little companies that the conglomerate owns, that the conglomerate company can make a decision on what they're doing. The only thing, realistically, once the law is put into place,
governor does that as well.
I don't know that. That's what I'm saying. I don't know that I don't know.
Well, if supposedly the sheriff's the only answer to the governor.
I don't think that's true.
No.
I think they answer to the state legislature. That's what I'm saying. I think the state of Tennessee's. I think the way the state of Tennessee Constitution is written, I haven't read it all the way through yet. I get lost and tired and fall asleep every time I try. But I think the way it's written, almost everybody answers to the
state
legislature.
Constitution.
Yeah,
it's really not that long. Are you serious?
Yeah. I get bored with it. It's all wordy and bullshitty. I don't like it.
All right.
I'll read it. I'll try to read it again. Maybe you can read it to me tomorrow while we're driving.
Do you really want me to?
I was debating on whether I want to bring the mic. We can do a little road show.
Oh, goodness.
I'm as curious to test the process as I am to actually get any usable stuff out of it. Because we got a couple different hunting trips coming up, and it'd be fun to do some road hunting ones. But
we did one remote one. It turned out all right. I don't know how great the sound was because it was just one mic, within 3 or 4 feet of all of us.
Yeah, and then that fucking 4x4 crew came through in the middle of it, and
Oh, did they?
yeah.
I think I was pretty drunk for that one.
Yeah. And it was like I had to edit a bunch of it because I guess since we weren't in studio, you guys were really bad about the names game. So your guys' anonymity was a loss.
Yeah.
And so I went and spent a ton of time fixing that. Like, it took me like a month to get that one out because I had to do so much editing to it. But I got the new laptop, which should make it much easier.
Oh, did you get your new laptop?
I did. I don't know why. Like, I should have. I don't know. I do know why, because I want something I can carry around. But I should have traded this desktop in and just gotten a docking station, because essentially it's just a mirror image of this thing in my backpack. In my big pick. But then there's a bunch of hullabaloo, and there's the state is getting sued and countersuing some people for some of the rules. They kicked some people out of.
Saw a little bit about that.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm really confused on it.
They tried to warn them, and they were like, hey, we said, we're not going to allow signs, flags, and something else, or like interruptions during, but, we welcome the community to be there, but you can't interrupt the proceedings.
Right, but there was something about they took all their water bottles away on their way into the building for security's sake, and all the water fountains inside were off.
What?
And it's like 100 degrees in downtown Nashville.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of the.
This was like proven.
Scott and Jesse were talking about it on their show today, so okay. I trust that it's true.
I trust they probably got it from a reliable source.
And so I don't know. Like, I don't like I hear the rules at play. Those are the rules. I don't understand. Like, I don't know what the overarching principle of how they set the rules for session are, as far as that kind of stuff goes. But it's like, we clearly stated the rules.
For the most part, it's general rules
rules
that aren't often had to be actually enforced as far as like disruptions. Usually people that are there like aren't looking to get too vocal. They're either there to observe, or they're there because they're a part of it.
Sure.
Or have some kind of interest in it.
But there's I kind of get both sides of it. Like, part of it's like, well, you can't have people up in the balcony yelling and screaming the whole time, because then nothing can happen.
Right. It's not often you have people show up just to like protest a certain bill.
But somebody wants to get up there with a sign. What's the big deal? Other than unless you're going to play it on your sign is blocking the view of the person behind you.
Yeah,
which that's not the argument they're making. They just don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear the complaint about, like, because it was all like, it was one lady that got kicked out. It was like, kids before guns or something like that on like a standard sheet of paper. Right. And but didn't yell or scream or anything. Just held it up while they were talking. I was just listening and holding her little sign up, and they kicked her out.
Yeah, see, I don't really get that.
I don't really get it either.
It's like she's not really being disruptive. It's like, don't want to read it, don't look at it. I know it's hard to not read something that you look at. But
you're not even listening or paying attention to the person who's talking on the floor, so what's it matter what somebody in the gallery's doing?
Possibly, yeah.
You've already got your mind made up about what you're doing while you're here. You've been very explicit about it. For a lot of them, at least. There's no, somebody's not going to come to the podium and give a rousing speech, and all of a sudden people are going to change their minds and do something different.
Yeah.
Let alone some random person or a couple of random people in the audience with some whatever. I don't know.
Let's talk when it was first called. They were pretty much going to be kicking the can down the road. Even after it was called, most of the people said, like, this is going to be futile.
Yeah, I'm only going to, because if I don't go, all the Democrats are going to go, and if enough of people are there and the Democrats all vote the way that they're going to vote, I have to be there to -1 their count. And if enough of
they could have sat a few out and still had that.
A few, but who gets? I'm sure there's I'm sure there's a behind the scenes conversation of, we have to have at least 75 people show up. If you're not going to be here, you better have a good fucking reason.
Possible.
Because we have to have at least enough to make sure that this is a waste of time. So I understand that nobody wants to be here, but we have to have enough to make sure that we don't accidentally give something away. And so I would say that the caucus stance was, you are going to be here unless you have something very specifically important going on that you can't be here for. But yeah, what a waste of time. Surprise.
I would hope something will at least come of it.
I mean, maybe we'll get some of
they
this
could
mental
find-
health stuff in place.
Maybe they could find some kind of consensus on something. I would hope at least they would realize that they're going to look like a bunch of jackasses. They were called to this special session to try to figure out something, and they came out of it with nothing. I would like to think they were at least going to try to come out with like one thing accomplished.
I mean, they're going to get that requiring the TBI to do an annual report on.
Is it officially
human
over? Or
trafficking.
did they?
No, they got to come back. They're not done yet.
Okay.
Because there is a little bit of a fight between the House and the Senate in that the House has some more stuff that they actually do want to try to do, and the Senate won't even look at it. That's not I did hear about that part as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So special session at play, the Belk thing, early voting's over. That was what I wanted to pull up in here. I'm so special I get media releases from Chris Davis.
Boom.
Chris Davis, you got to mention. Maybe I missed that.
Keep on jogging.
Yeah, keep on jogging and listen to us really fast. Because we're going to talk really fast, so you have to listen to us really fast, so it's going to be really, 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 really fast. Which is funny because I've had a couple of people complain to me that they don't like listening to us because we talk too fast at regular speed.
Really?
And I'm like, well, we don't really talk that fast. I do in the intro. Like, I squeeze a lot of stuff in that intro. But, like, once we get rolling, I don't talk that fast.
Yeah, I wouldn't think that I do either.
They talk too fast. I can't listen to them, but I've heard that. And so anyway, here Chris Davis sent some cool history, some stats on what's currently happening and some cool history. So the stats on the current thing is that of the 8,000-ish, maybe 9,000 total early voting, 6,300 of them are 55 plus. So congratulations, Knoxville. You're going to be run by the choice of old people. And then, but going into the history part, and this is just for the primary. What I think is the interesting thing about it, if you go through all of the last, whatever that 6 or 7 that he sent is, it's like 45-ish% of the total votes cast in the primary are in the early voting stage.
That's what I was about to say. I wonder how that compares to
right. So
day of or general, I guess.
So my bet right now is we had about 8,000 early voting, which would mean we'll have about 17.2 in total votes cast in the primary. That would be the mathematical, statistical ballpark figure of what to expect. And then following that, what to expect is we're not going to have. And what I'm actually most interested in seeing is to see how many people vote in the general, because good money on Kincannon is winning the race this week. Because if the mayor polls 50% in the primary, they don't have to do the general. Now, if they pull 49.99999, they have to go on to the general against whoever got second place.
Yeah.
But if it's 50 plus 1, they don't have to do a general. And so I'm curious how that's going to affect if there's no mayor's race on the general, how many people are going to show up for the stuff that is. Because it's only the mayor and the judge that fall under that category. The city council seats have to go to the general no matter what. Like you could have seat C or whatever, Hill, Best, and Parker. You could have Hill get 99.5%, Amelia get 0.5%, and Best get 0.0001% in the margin of error or whatever like that, and Amelia whoever the Hill and who I said was in second place will have to go on to the general, even though the primary was that one-sided. But again, like the interesting thing to me is how many people are going to come out to a general without a mayor's race. So I'm curious to see how that turns.
General without a mayor's race?
You're right.
Yeah.
Because odds are, realistically, we're not going to have a mayor's race on the general.
I think she's going to have that much of a landslide.
Yeah, I don't think there's a real challenge, to be honest. Tallman's the only one that's got any kind of weight, and I don't think the three other candidates combined. Constance, bless her heart, and I mean that in the most southern way possible. If she pulls 2 or 3%, that'll be a good showing for her.
For some reason, bless your heart was supposed to be like condescending.
Yes,
and I was like, what?
Yes. It depends on the tone.
Right.
I mean, the tone matters.
I've always heard it more like in the endearing tone. That's why I was like, wait, what? No.
No, I've known it to be that thing. It's like it's the way to call somebody stupid to their face nicely.
Right.
Oh, Timmy, bless his heart. He's a special boy.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I was like, wait.
I can't remember. I can't even remember what the other candidate for mayor is. It's Tallman.
I think I've actually seen a couple signs for Constance.
I think Constance's total campaign is less than $300.
Good on her for giving it a go.
Yeah. I think her financial disclosure, because they have to do one before the primary ends, or it's due the week before the primary ends or whatever, so it was due yesterday, showed income of like $8 and something cents, and they spent $27 since the last disclosure.
Running in the red.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, they had more from prior, but yeah, that's not going to... Yeah. Anyway, I think Tallman's the only one that's got a shot, and if he pulls 15%, I'd be surprised. And so you got a 15, a 5, and a 5, generous. That's only 25% of the vote.
Yeah.
So, but again, looking at the history, so August 23, August 19, August 15, so they're comparables. They're city races with mayor ballots. So they alternate, if you'll notice. So it's like this year's up. So the comparable to 23 would be 15, because that would be the last time the incumbent mayor was termed out, and so it was a contested mayor's race without an incumbent. So like the 19 one, which was Kincannon's first run, was contested. You had Eddie Manis and one other candidate running. And so that had a bigger turnout. But back in the 15 one, that was Ruggiero's incumbent year, and the early voting only was 2,000.
Yeah.
And she won like all the 2015, the 2007. So that was Ruggiero and I can't remember who was before Ruggiero.
It wasn't Ash, was it?
No, Ash was before that. It was
Corker?
No. I want to say it starts with an H.
Wasn't Haslam?
Yeah, Haslam was county anyway.
No.
He was city mayor?
Yeah, I think he may have been city mayor.
It might have been him then. In 2007? I'm sorry, 2003? 2003 to 2011? Anyway, both those...
Yeah, I think it might have been.
So both those mayors, whoever it was in 2007 in their incumbent year, with only 3,000 votes and 2,000 votes respectively in the primaries, still got 50+%. It didn't have to run. Neither of those mayors had to go to the general on their incumbent year, with only 2,000 people voting. And there were, I would assume there were challengers. I don't know if there were challengers or not. I forgot to ask Scott or Jesse that question. And the other part, too, that I think is interesting is he has it broken down by district. Each district has an early voting location. You are not obligated to vote in your district's early voting location. You can vote at any early voting location.
Right.
But he has the turnout for each location. And so North Knox and West Knox are the biggest, which it brings a curious demographic question to me, because we don't know where the people live who are making those votes. But it's certainly convenient for them, for one reason or another, to use the North Knox or the West Knox location.
Yeah.
And they're old. They're 55 plus, most of them. Yeah. 6,300, and so you have District 2 to 2,400. If the math's right, like 80% of the voters, 80+% of the people who voted early are 55 plus. So if that math holds the rest of the way out, 80% of District 4's 2,000, which would be 1,600, we're in that 55 plus range.
Yep.
And so if you're 55 plus, you're probably not retired, but you're close. So is it convenient for work? I'm curious. I have questions about this. I don't know how to answer these questions, but I'm curious.
I mean, it could be as simple as that was just a common polling place that they've gone to for years. Like the Downtown West one, I've known that to be a polling place for a long time.
And I mean, if you live in I'm trying to think of it. Like if you live anywhere and you're coming out to Lowe's or Home Depot that's out west anyway, I'll stop and vote on my way to Lowe's.
Yeah.
I don't know where the north polling location is for District 4. I'm assuming it's Fountain City somewhere. Yeah. I don't know the answer to that.
Not sure.
But I'm assuming it's somewhere around there. And so it's like, well, I'm going out to Kroger. I'll stop by and vote today because it's convenient if you live there. Right. Or if you work there. That's the question I have. Like, I get it for, because I would think the East Knox, well, I don't know where the East Knox one is either. I think it's closer to downtown. I think it's south of 40. I don't think it's up there in like the Easttown area.
Well, I mean, we've talked about before that a lot of the people that do voting or even just early voting are people that have done it for year upon year.
Right. They may live somewhere else now, but they still
that's
go
what
back
lends me
there
to think that maybe that's just kind of like that was their usual spot, the place they've always gone for early voting.
Yeah, I guess District 1 is downtown, the city county building, because that's their offices and that's their main early voting location. Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
I could see that one not being too high just because
it's a pain in the dick.
Yeah.
It's so
I got to pay like $10 to go in and vote for free.
And I'll go back on my high horse. I think the government offices need to get out of downtown proper. I think that's just, it doesn't make sense to me why we need to have that. I understand we don't have a choice on the federal building. It's a federal building. I guess there's the historical factor of the old city office building that's down there, whatever, the old city courthouse that's right next door to the city county.
Oh, the red brick one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where I guess they do DMV stuff in there now or whatever. But
they've been doing it there for a while.
Yeah, but I'm just saying,
I think it's one of the only has like a drive-through DMV.
Yeah. And so like I understand that piece of property staying there and it's important and historical and whatever, and maybe using it for some little stuff here and there.
Yeah, I think it's like our old like courthouse basically.
Yeah, keep it doing some minor function, whatever, that's cool. But like the actual city county building itself, that doesn't need to be there. You should have put that in Easttown instead of a fucking Amazon Center. It'd be more convenient by a mile, still technically in the city limits. Now, us West Side people get all pissy because we have to go further to get there.
That's what I was kind of like wondering. I mean, our county is shaped kind of oddly.
I'd rather drive a little further and not have to pay for parking and deal with that bullshit, personally. I'd rather deal with a little more traffic than deal with paid parking and walking 6 blocks or whatever it is, depending on the time of the day and all the crazy shit that goes on, personally.
I mean, there's more things that have to do with it. I mean, the city county building does have all of our courts in there as well.
Sure, which they could be wherever. Hell, you put it out east out, it's closer to the jail, so they don't have to travel as far.
Sure. I
just think it's wasted space. We've been down this rabbit hole. We don't need to do it again.
There's a jail on the bottom of it, so that there's not so much as far as like transport.
They don't stay there. It's a short term. They only bring them there for the day that they're in there. It's not like there's not dudes sleeping in there. There might be a couple here and there, but generally speaking, I don't think there's anybody that stays the night there.
Right.
So, whatever. It's a chance for them to get out and ride the bus. Must be fun. Speaking of buses, the trolleys are going away. We've got 1 year of trolleys left.
What?
And the free trolleys are gone.
Huh. I hadn't heard that.
Yeah. It's a big stink. Hubert Smith's all pissed off about it. He's on CAT board or something. He's big on the trolleys. He likes them. He's mad that they're leaving.
Is the UT still going to have the T or whatever? Their kind of trolley? That's going away too?
Apparently over the next couple of years, they're completely redoing the totality of the routings and all that stuff. Hopefully not like that one school in Ohio or whatever that
routings of what?
All the bus routes. Because I guess the complaint from the consultants whom were looking at the routes with CAT was like, you've got these trolleys running down here, and you have 6 or 7 other bus lines that run through that section. You're just running over yourself constantly, and that's mileage and stuff like that.
Right.
And even though the fares are kind of pointless, which I actually found really interesting, Scott said like less than 5% of CAT's income is from fares. It's like, well, then why do they bother with fares at all? If it's that dirt cheap, like if you want to encourage people to ride it, free all the time.
Yeah.
Like it's all federal and state and local money that pays the actual bills for it. Sell some ad space on the side of the bus to offset the lack of fares, and let people ride it for free. So, but yeah, the trolleys are going away. And
have you ever gone to the? I think it's called the East Tennessee History Museum. They've got One of the old trolleys that used to go up and down Gay Street.
Right there in the middle of right there on Gay Street, right across from the beach, or not the Bijou, the Tennessee Theater.
Yeah, just up from Tennessee. Yeah.
We did a scout thing there. It was really fun.
It's cool to see that, like, old trolley. It's from, like, 50s, 60s probably.
Yeah, the cool, like, the paper, the wallpaper they have in that room is pretty neat, too. It's like old photos and stuff like that. They have blown up. Like, it's just like it's trying to get it to feel like you're on the street. The trolley's there, and, like, you're, crossing the street, and it's whatever the old facades were back when the trolleys were running and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I bet, like, where the Mirage used to be, when the missus used to work at the Mirage, that building is that old.
Yeah.
And so their basement is the old street level. Mm-hmm. And it's the weirdest thing in the world to go down in that basement, because you walk to the front of the room and there's a door
and a window,
and a big glass window, like any normal, street facing retail spot. It's, hey, look in here, except it's dirt.
I think they've given up on it. There was talk 10 or 15 years ago about doing like an underground Knoxville and trying to like open up all of that, what used to be the original Gay Street level.
Yeah. I find the premise fascinating, that was a cheaper option.
Yeah. Like,
to raise the street level than to take the trolley stuff out.
Oh, was that what it was all about? Was just like the tracks that were in the road?
I guess, yeah. It was easier. Like that. My understanding of it, and I could be totally wrong, but my understanding of it is that, it was that the cost and energy and effort that it was going to be to pull all the trolley stuff and workings and mechanics and all that kind of crap out and repave and do all that stuff, it was cheaper just to bury it all and raise it a level. Which I would have loved to have been in that city meeting with all those building and business owners down there, being like, "What?
What kind of math are you doing?"
It might be cheaper for you guys, but what does that do to me? I have to move my grocery store up a level,
right,
and just pretend like it works that way,
right?
That's, it happened, and so it happened. But I think it's I want to know. I want to be in the room when the guy pitches the idea.
I just can't imagine it being cheaper to do it that way. Like, I can't have it.
Well, because with those old trolleys, like, there's like not all of it, but they're like on portions of it. There's like significant mechanics.
I think you just had electrical lines above, and then you've got a rail below.
I don't think so. I think a lot of them had some sort, like the San Francisco ones they talk about all the time.
Never seen them.
Like, there's a cable.
Pictures of them. But
there's a cable that runs underneath the roadway.
Oh, where they show cable cars? They got pulled along that way?
Right, and so the operator that's on the trolley, all they're really doing is pulling the lever that clamps onto the cable so it pulls them. And so when they need to stop, they disengage from the cable, and then the brakes kick in, or whatever the mechanics on the trolley do. And I think that's the thing that they had in Knoxville. And that, so it wasn't just pulling the tracks and paving over it. It was, you had to pull the tracks and pull all the mechanics out, which I guess you still could have done at the same level, but
yeah, I still would think that would be cheaper.
But only raise it like 6 inches.
Because, I mean, as far as like the infrastructure and having the stability of building up an entire road, up an entire story.
Yeah. But I
mean, looking at it, you're like, what do you mean this is supposed to be like a whole level below? Like, this is pretty level. What are you talking about? Like, this is up a whole level higher than it's supposed to be?
Yeah. I mean, you can see it, like, I mean, again, like in the buildings that are down there, you can see
slight
it.
Hill
but also you go out of the back of any of those buildings. Like, they kind of cliff off. Like, it's a pretty steep hill on the backside going down to, what was that, Hall of Fame? Not Hall of Fame.
No, it's kind of a steep hill as it is, because, I mean, that whole like Summit Hill just pretty much drops down right there at Gay Street.
Yeah, but raising that street, and I mean, because you raise that street, and like everything else came up to meet it, because like from Gay Street west is all that level pretty much.
Yeah.
But once you go east of it, it drops way down real fast. That's where First Creek is and all that stuff too. But then I guess the old courthouse was on the tip top of whatever the hill is, because it's 5-6 feet above current Gay Street level.
Yeah.
Because there's like a 3-foot wall and then the hill where the cannons sit. Oh, random craziness.
Well, I mean, they didn't move Market Square up. I mean, it's pretty much almost on the same level as Gay Street.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like the whole city went up that level, and I don't know where all the trolleys went and why they thought they needed to do. I don't know. It'd be a curious dive into Knoxville history with somebody that knows what the fuck they're talking about.
Well, Jack Neely would know.
Yeah. Speaking of Knoxville history, do you know where the name Happy Holler came from?
I do not.
All right, so I learned this week, and it's fantastic and hilarious and beautiful. So, Old North Knox, 4th and Gill, Oakwood, Lincoln Park, all those neighborhoods are kind of between Broadway and Central right there. Old neighborhoods, been there for fuck ever and all that stuff. And so I guess the first question is, do you know why we have a road named Paper Mill?
There used to be a paper mill on it.
Yeah. And it's actually, I actually accidentally right after this saw it and drove by it. Where 640 goes over Paper Mill, there's one of those little brown history marker signs in the road.
I've never noticed.
And there's a little brown history. It's a site of the old paper mill. Mm-hmm. All right, so it was apparently a huge fucking paper mill. And so there's huge fucking paper mill right there, and it was one of the main employers in town. And so everybody that lived in Old North Knox and stuff like that worked at the paper mill. And so on their way home, they'd stop in the holler to get happy before they went home. And so it was a real dark. There's some dark history as far as what the definition of get happy is, but there's hookers and bars and all that kind of fun stuff. And so that is the history of where the name Happy Holler came from, because that's where you went to get happy before you had to go home.
Interesting.
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. So we're trying to bring the happy
like a
back.
Validated story, or is this?
This was
presumptive story.
This was from Lauren Ryder.
Yeah.
I trust her. Her sources on it, so I believe it. And so we're trying to bring it back. Hookers and all, I'm good with hookers. We got a couple hookers that run down there right now. Anyway, it's not good ones. Not ones that I would pay for. At least it's
okay. Good.
I don't know that I'd pay for a hooker anyway, but it is. It's very uncomfortable outfit choices that I walk by every once in a while. I'm like. And we kind of like, is she a hooker? And then somebody's like, yeah, we saw a guy come up to her and they went out back. And it's like, damn, okay. It's happening. Yeah. Which is why I'm trying to get Chief Noel to come down and meet me and the other business owners down there and be like, hey, man, like, personally, philosophically, I think prostitution should be legal. It should be regulated, blah, 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 blah. But it's not. And this is what we get for it. So could you do something about not having it happen around me? I appreciate that.
Yeah, I met a friend of a friend that owns a business. I think he said he's right on like Broadway. I think he was talking to the city about trying to get trash cans put out on the street. Yep. He said they had talked about it, but then
the city won't pay for them.
They ended up getting put in like Happy Hollow.
Nope, we don't have them.
And he said they ended up moving them somewhere
because Happy Holler's asked for them in the past too. Other versions,
I thought he said,
other individual.
Maybe they haven't put them yet, but I guess maybe the money was allocated to then maybe build them there. But he was like,
what I was told the last time the conversation.
He's like, you've got the mission here, and then this over here, and you guys are giving them out free food, but you guys don't have any trash cans. So like, you're just kind of encouraging them to litter the sidewalk from one place to the next.
What I was told was that it's been asked for repeatedly, and the answer is we don't care to give you trash cans, but we're not going to. By obligation, if they're city-owned trash cans, the city has to change them.
Right.
And it's like we don't have money in the budget to have our crews go out and change those trash cans. And even if we said, then we'll change them ourselves. Just give us the cans. Just give us those big concrete whatevers that don't move. Put them out there, and we'll change the bags in them as needed.
Yeah.
They can't do it because they have to change them. They're not allowed to have them changed by other people. That's the story as I've heard.
I thought the city did trash because the city has city trash cans.
Yes, but not like that. And they do downtown,
right?
But like they don't check our parallel parking either. Yeah, like all our parallel parking all through is 2 hour max. I've been out there for 6 hours, many times, and I don't even think about it. And we've been told they just don't check it. They don't ticket it. They don't even come up past like there's different little subzones of the city and different crews and groups and whatever.
I'd say they're probably checking more closer to the courthouses and places like that.
Right, which I don't care.
That have more of a parking issue that I guess do do stand to be checked a little bit more often. Make sure people aren't abusing it.
I don't particularly care the way it sits now. Anyway, it's kind of like, well, why you talk about wasting money? Why'd you put a sign up that says 2-hour parking if you're not going to enforce it? Why don't you just leave nothing on there?
In the air of hope that if they just says I couldn't stay here for forever. It's like, well, no, actually, there's a sign that says you're only supposed to park there for 2 hours.
I guess if
we've let you park there for 4 hours, so please move.
If somebody pisses me off, I can call the cops and be like, hey, tow this car. It's been there for 6 hours.
Yeah, I don't know how you prove it, but it's possible.
It depends on where they're parked. Our camera catches a couple of them, so
yeah.
Like, see, it's here. I don't know. I just think I thought it was anyway. The happy part of Happy Holler is funny. So we're bringing it back. We're bringing Happy Holler back. It's gonna be happy. It's gonna be super happy. Hookers, blackjack. Have you started watching the new Futurama? There's a new Futurama. They've started new episodes of Futurama.
No.
I know better than to ask you about modern television.
I never really got that much into Futurama. I mean, I always loved Simpsons. And I've seen a decent bit maybe of Futurama, but not a whole lot. Probably not even 25% of...
We got into it for a while, and I like it better. It aged with me better than The Simpsons did.
Really?
Like, I feel like The Simpsons got a little juvenile a little fast for me, and like the Futurama's a little bit more...
They had a little more adult jokes in it.
Yeah, Futurama's a little bit
So I think they came out like on a different network versus Fox.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question.
I think they started on like Comedy Central or like something different, which I think allowed them to be a little bit more adult.
Yeah. It's fun though. I like it. We've only watched a couple of the new episodes. But yeah.
I did go to the Cinnabar for the first time last night. That was pretty nice.
Really? I don't like it.
I like the seats.
Seats are nice.
Like that was crazy when I was like picking out. I went to like go get tickets, and they were like, I walked out. There's like 5 kiosks, and there's like this 16-year-old like standing behind this like guest services counter, and I was like, "Do I get tickets here or from you?" And he's like, "Oh, either one." I'm like, "All right, well, I'm gonna make you work, motherfucker." He's kind of pull up some screen. He's like, "Okay, like pick out your seats." It's the first time I've been since you've got to like pick out assigned seats.
Yeah, I don't.
And I wondered, I was like, that theater must be like super fucking small. I'm like, what the fuck? You must like got in there, like how much like room they've allocated just for like these nice reclining seats.
Yeah, they're big seats.
But it was nice. I was like, I can fucking recline back. I was like, this is actually kind of nice.
I'm not mad. I'll give you that part. I just don't like the food and drink options. Just don't.
I mean, I bought a beer before I went in, and that was it.
But they don't serve like they'll serve during the previews,
right? But
as soon as the movie starts, they stop service.
Okay. You're against that?
Yeah.
I don't want that. That was one of the things I worried about. I was like, if the movie's going on and they're like serving food, I'm like, that's going to be really distracting.
I mean,
because they were still doing it. I think they still do it for the first like 15, 20 minutes of the movie.
As long as you get
they like bring out your last orders, pretty much.
You can order up until the movie starts.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know. I don't know. I just don't see the point of having it. Like, well, let me just go out to the food court and sit down and have dinner. Or sit out at the bar area out in front of the movie theater and have my dinner. I mean, it's cool, I guess, if I can bring my beer in with me. But if I have to get up and go get my refills anyway, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like, what's the point? Like, why would I go to the movie theater early to sit in a chair and eat food when I could just sit in any chair anywhere and eat food and then come to the movie?
Because you can have the food brought there to where you can eat during the movie.
Right, and then you run
instead of having to just eat before.
Right, and then you finish your beer and you've got half your fries left, and you're like, "Fuck, I really could go for another beer, but I don't want to leave because I'm watching the movie."
I guess. Man.
To me, if you're gonna do that kind of thing, you should serve through the whole thing. Figure out how to do it low key. And be low key about it.
There's no way to be low key about it. You literally have to have an adult bring all the shit in there for everybody that just ordered shit.
Right. I think you could do it fairly low key. I'm not saying it'd be 100% low key.
There's no way to do it low key.
I mean, people get up and go to the bathroom and stuff like that in the middle of it.
Ask these motherfuckers to like crawl down the aisles to bring you your onion rings and
as
beer.
You mentioned, they have huge room for seats and reclining and all that kind of stuff. They can.
Not for someone that's standing up, carrying shit that's bringing you your food. Again, like I said, you can't expect them to just crawl across the floor low profile
And that is why they don't get my business, because I think it's dumb, and so I don't go.
Okay, touche.
That's all I'm saying. Like if they had one that was if everything was the same, but they would continue service, as long as the service wasn't obnoxious.
So you were cool with going to the movies before when this wasn't available whatsoever.
Sure.
Gotcha. But you won't go now that they'll actually bring you stuff in a limited time frame.
I don't go to that theater. I haven't been to an actual movie theater in a long time. I don't go to movies much, period.
That's what I said. I literally could
there's
not
a whole
remember
lot.
The last time I went, and I was like, you know what, fuck it. Hadn't been in a while, and I was like, I've heard this place is nice, and it's got fucking.
There's a whole lot more to why
chairs.
I don't go to the theaters anymore than just that. But that is a factor in the total symphony of reasons of why I don't go to the movies anymore.
Gotcha.
Mainly because I can watch it here, and I can pause it when I need to pee.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the reasons, and it's not really the movie theater's fault either. One of the reasons I stop going to movie theaters is everything's getting too damn long.
I was more of just like there weren't any like great movies I thought that came out. I was like, oh, I'd
Right.
like to go see this
There's stuff,
on my giant screen
right.
or whatever.
And that's the other part too. It's like most of the stuff that I want to see, it doesn't really necessitate it.
I mean, some of the Avengers may have been cool, but I was so far behind that.
Well, that was the last
know where the fuck I was at in the story.
That was the last time I saw a movie there. Is me and the missus went and saw Endgame there.
Yeah.
And it's like 4 hours.
Right.
And I had to pee. And it's not I can hold it pretty well most of the time.
Yeah.
I'll get through 2+ hours of the show most of the time and not have to pee. Or feel like I need to pee, but be able to hold it to finish another hour or so. That's not that big a deal. But, like, I don't, I can pause it at home
Right.
and go pee and come back and I don't miss a thing. And go get another beer or whatever and not miss anything.
Right.
And I don't have to spend $100 or whatever it is. Like if we try to go as a foursome, it's $100 easy.
I think last night it was like $14.50 a ticket.
Right. And it's popcorn and soda and some candy.
Not any popcorn. Just
I'm saying, me and the family all go together.
Right.
They're all old enough now that they pay adult ticket prices.
Yeah.
And so, you're $60+ just for tickets. Then a couple of popcorns, a couple of candies, a couple of drinks, another $35-$40 easy. It's $100 easy to go to a movie. And sit and be miserable because I got to pee and I can't pause it.
I don't think I even smelled popcorn. I didn't even see a big popcorn machine of anyone even serving it there.
They did it last time we were there when I got it. There was popcorn, but it was in a shallow, 10-inch metal bowl instead of in the bag or the bucket. Which, there's some nostalgia in the bucket to me, but that's not the end of the world either.
Yeah.
I do kind of like the buckets, though. Just sitting there and cut a hole in the bottom, sneak one on the girl, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I don't know why that joke made sense to put there, but I did it. I don't know. So we were talking last week about what was his name? No. Woodward.
Were we talking last
Bob
week about this?
Yeah, that's why I brought it up in the text. I was thinking about that after.
When did we talk about this last week?
Because I'm right. That's what it was.
Okay.
So I did, as I promised, I talked to Scott and Jesse about the legalities of publishing classified information.
Right.
There's zero legal ramifications as long as they aren't in the ones obtaining it illegally. It's the obtaining and distribution, not distribution, excuse me. It's the obtaining it that's illegal. And it's the distribution from the person who obtained it illegally to a third party, which would be illegal.
Were we talking about this in reference to
we were talking about the Kansas thing for a little bit.
Thing? Yeah.
We were talking about the Kansas thing, and we went down this weird rabbit hole of we were arguing about whether or not if I could publish, if somebody left on my doorstep a document that said, for the president's eyes only, stamp classified, top secret, whatever, whether I would have any legal ramifications if I published that document. No,
right.
I would not.
My only caveat was I didn't know if there was some kind of major or some kind of part of the law is if you knowingly do it. Like I said, that was my only thing. I was I don't know if you seeing that you're oh, I see that this folder is sealed and says top secret.
Right, and no, and it goes, and even if and a point that Scott made when I was talking to him about it, he's even in like not so necessarily classified information. So like the example he put out and we were discussing is like if Mayor Jacobs, if somebody hands me a document that is Mayor Jacobs' lab report from his last physical,
right?
If somebody hands me a copy of that, they might have legal issues if they were a doctor or a nurse involved because of HIPAA violation.
I can
and
see
stuff
that.
like
It's
that.
like it more being a law as far as like being illegally obtained.
But if they hand that to him and he says, "What's this?" and they say, "Oh, that's Mayor Jacobs', lab reports from his physical," and Scott goes and does a story saying, "I got a copy of Mayor Jacobs' lab reports. He's got his blood pressure's through the roof."
Yeah.
There is nothing that Mayor Jacobs can do, or the sheriff's office, or anybody else that can do about him violating his privacy in that way.
They could try to find out who exactly leaked said document.
Right. And in Tennessee, we have what's called a shield law, and the police can ask Scott all they want to who gave him that document, and Scott is not obligated to tell them who.
Shield their source.
Right. And so, they could say he can be subpoenaed over it or whatever, but at the end of the day, in Tennessee at least, other states don't have as active shield law stuff. But essentially what it would be in that case, even in states that doesn't have a shield law, if you're the journalist and I'm the state of whatever, and I subpoena you to court, I subpoena you to come to court and testify to tell us who gave you that document, and you refuse to tell me, you're contempt of court. It's a misdemeanor contempt of court charge. It's not a felony, aiding and abetting a fugitive or whatever the fuck. It'd just be a contempt of court.
Yeah. Which
isn't nothing, but sure. And realistically, it's that would be a real hard one to uphold. Legally it checks the boxes, but you're putting yourself in a bad spot if you're a judge or a prosecutor throwing a journalist in jail for refusing to give up their source.
Yeah.
So you're taking a pretty specific risk yourself to try to force that issue on a journalist. But it happens.
Yeah.
Some lady in the New York Times that Jesse worked with, who was apparently leaked a bunch of stuff, or got leaked a bunch of stuff pre-Iraq war, got pulled in front of the Justice Department and refused to give up her source and went to jail for like a year.
For a year?
Something like that.
Damn.
Or was sentenced for like a year. I don't know how long it actually went. Can't remember the name.
Just for contempt of court.
Yeah. Which, I mean, it's still jail and it sucks. But apparently, but among journalists, you're a fucking hero at that point. Except apparently she was pro-war. I don't know. It was weird. I don't know the backstory on it enough to go into it. But a lot of journalists are kind of like, you were kind of taking a bunch of leaks from people who were trying to push the agenda of getting us further into Iraq and stuff like that.
Yeah. And
you were running stories on it, which, it's decent stories. But it's also pro getting us further into Iraq. And, we don't like that. So she didn't get the hero praise, apparently. I don't know. Again, that'd be an interesting story. I'm sure somebody's written some stuff on it. There's a gorilla in the space station thing.
I'm not sure exactly when he did it, but yeah, got this when I was flipping through one of my apps earlier. I was like, "That's actually pretty funny."
He's local. They're local? There's a connection.
They have some kind of. I think they went to school here. Because there's twins.
Yeah, that was the whole point.
I think one or both of them went to school here at some point. I don't think they actually lived here, but I think they went to school here at some point.
So we got some alums.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was the point of the mission, was the twins part. So I understood it.
That was part of it, yeah.
Yeah. Because they wanted to see the difference, because genetically they're as close to identical as you can get.
I'm wondering if they decided to do that after, I guess, he was going to try to be up there for the longest time or whatever. Or if
I thought that was part of the mission. Part of the mission was we want to see what changes to your body in space for as long as it is, and we have a good model to compare you to because it's your twin brother, blah, 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 blah.
I think technically at this point he's, in reality, I think it's younger or older.
Yeah, I don't understand that either, but yes, I know what you're talking about.
I think he's technically older now. Because they've done studies where they've taken like atomic clocks, like
I need to send this.
like super precise clocks, and even taken them up like 50, 60,000 feet, and then like those two clocks, were calibrated to be equal at sea level, before they took off. But then even just putting one on an airplane going up to like 50, 60,000 feet,
right,
would still get it off by like, microseconds or whatever.
Right. And you do that for long enough, it'll eventually get off
Right.
notably different time.
Yeah.
Which I still, I don't understand. I get it, but I don't. That's like one of those that Neil deGrasse Tyson explains. You're like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And you can't ever explain it to somebody
It's still
else.
kind of like hard to fathom.
Yeah.
It's like, well, when the gravitational force is, when you're that far away from the sun, you're actually, or when you're that far away from the earth, you're spinning at this speed, so your yearly age, degrades by this much.
Yeah, I don't. But
if
he's technically younger, he's going to die sooner.
I don't know how he snuck it on.
I don't know. What's his name? Snuck the golf clubs on. The last moon mission where they were playing golf on the moon?
That's right.
He snuck the golf
sneak
club.
it in?
Yeah, I remember hearing that's my recollection of the story. I don't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure.
I remember seeing you've seen footage of people doing that.
But that was not permissed isn't the right word. It was not planned, and it's NASA that plans everything. So you would assume.
I guess a gorilla suit may not take up that much room. But that was my kind of thing, because they're very limited as to how much like weight and stuff you take up there.
They send tons of hot sauce. They can make room for a gorilla.
Is that hot sauce up there?
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea.
Apparently, your taste buds suck.
I could see
and
that.
So they love the hot. Like all the astronauts want hot sauce. It's some hot currency. Oh, anyway, I sent that to the eldest because he likes gorillas. Because of a stupid game. Yeah, but I don't really care about the Nord Stream thing. I don't want to go back into that.
No.
I at this point, it does kind of surprise me that you don't believe I'm remotely sourced, just because I can never remember my sources. I don't make shit up.
I don't make shit up. I just don't know where you get some of the shit you get from.
I don't know where a lot of the shit you get your shit from either, but I don't question it.
I send you everything where I get my shit from, and they're from like pretty major news sources. It's not like I saw like so and so talking about this.
Well, because I don't.
Like I said, I don't know where you saw this.
I consume most of my news through audio, and so I don't have a link to send, other than to send you the podcast that I'm listening to.
Gotcha. Oh.
And
I don't take my news from the audio format. I'm sorry.
I don't take my news from the written format. I'm sorry. I mean,
I do better with reading than listening. I forget a lot of things if I'm just listening to.
I do too. I have that problem a lot. Like I'll go listen to segments because like I got a phone call in the middle of it, and even though it pauses because it's playing off my phone, and it picks back up, but it takes me a minute to remember what we were talking about, and I go back and
like even like reading a story, I have to I'll like read through a paragraph and be like, wait, what did that just say? Let me reread this.
I mean, I've had from time to time, if there's a story that I hear on one of my podcasts that is interesting enough, I'll go try to find. Because like most of the podcasts I listen to aren't first source, I guess is the term. They're conglomerate source, so they're taking a New York Times article and a Politico article and a whatever, and they're kind of pushing them and pulling them. Like Politico did a piece on this that's adjacent to this, but when you put them together, it's its own story.
Right.
Like the story has a through line because it's this character over here with this thing and this character over
here. You got little bits of different information from both sides.
And so that's where most of mine are, which is part of which is a secondary part of why they're kind of hard to source, because it's like, well, I don't know which story that they pulled this part out of that they're talking about and to say there. Did you watch the debates?
Hell no. I had no interest in watching that shit.
I didn't watch it either. I could give a fuck less.
I read a little bit of analysis of it, and that was about it.
I've decided I do kind of like the idea of punditry, like of true punditry, where it's not really news, it's just kind of talking about the politics of what's happening. Like, I think there's an important separation at play, and I think it's kind of gross once you can start seeing it, how pathetic it actually is. Like, because realistically, it's just this, like who won the debate? Like, what the fuck does that mean? They didn't win anything. Who came across the best? Who told the most lies? I don't know. Like, what does that mean to win a debate? And these people.
I would see who came across the best, I guess.
Right, but even that statement is subjective.
Right.
Let alone how you score that as a subjective. You know, it's like, okay, theoretically, some polling will come out in the next couple days, and it'll be post the debate, and so you're going to see jumps and drops from different people, and you're going to associate that with their performance at the debate.
But I don't know how.
But it could be a different polling group that would have done it a week ago.
I don't know how much of a debate it actually really was. If they really debate, I mean, I heard there was a little bit of like back and forth between some of the nominees or whatever.
There was, I mean, I don't know. It's a ridiculous field. It's just a ridiculous field in and of itself. The totality of the field, Trump included, even though he wasn't there, is a sign of how ridiculous this process is anymore. And there's nobody on that stage that should have been there that I can fathom. Maybe Scott, sort of. You know, it goes back to the argument we had with AC a bunch. Like,
you mean as like a valid candidate?
I mean, I don't like legally, sure, they're all valid candidates, but as far as like,
what do you mean by?
Well, it's like, okay, so like AC used to argue all the time about Hillary Clinton had the best possible resume of any potential president ever. And I remember we argued about it a couple of times. It's like, what does that mean? Like, I don't know what that means. The resume, okay, so she was Secretary of State, she was a senator, she was a first lady. Those are resume points, okay. But I don't. Does that mean they're capable? Like, I don't. You know, because I asked this question on all the different elected people that we talk about. It's like, what are the experiences that we want these people to have,
right?
And what is the job they're actually supposed to be doing?
What kind of resume would you like a president? Do you think a presidential candidate should
I don't
have?
know. But
you don't think there should be anything, a general standard?
I mean, the Constitution says you got to be 35 and American born.
That's it.
I mean, that would be the checklist at least.
I guess maybe a better question would be, what are good qualifying qualities?
I mean, I would think.
Or what are good qualities of a president in your opinion?
I mean, I would think
if you don't want a good resume, which I think would be part of qualities, but
I would think some sort of proven like honesty would be a good start. Like some sort of honest individual that like.
How do you prove honesty?
I mean, you like I don't know, like for Trump or Biden, for example, when they campaign and say that they're going to do X, Y, and Z, that then they got elected and did it when they had a chance to do these things, that would be a start.
Okay, what president hasn't done that?
Okay, well, so just because a prior candidate hasn't checked my version of the list,
you're talking about fucking campaign promises.
No, I'm not. I'm talking about an honest individual, somebody in their whatever their life is before they decided to run for president. That they were a business owner and that they did honest business dealings and they weren't shady pieces of shit that were dodging taxes or doing other stuff like that. That it's trackable. It doesn't have to be in politics. Somebody that I believe actually has a positive, what I would consider a positive vision for the future of America. Who doesn't come across as just a selfish asshat that just wants to, not selfish, not selfless. Selfish asshat who just wants to promote themselves and enrich themselves either financially or fame in the process.
Right.
Because I don't think there's an individual on that stage in the Republican one, nor on the Democratic side, that doesn't fall into some of that bullshittery, if not most of it.
I mean, I bet those qualities sound good.
Like, I think Bernie Sanders, much as I don't like him politically, I think Bernie Sanders is one of the best candidates we've had for presidents in a couple decades.
Gotcha.
Because I actually believed him. I don't like what he was wanting to do, but I believed him. I thought he was being honest about what he was trying to do and what he wanted and what he thought the right moves were. And him, like, I'm as politically opposite of him as I think you could possibly be, but I trust the guy. You know, which gets into that question: would you rather have somebody that you trust is going to do something you don't want than somebody that is a huge liar telling you that they're going to do what they want?
Yeah.
Either is a loss, I guess, but at least I know they're honest, and if I can give a compelling argument on why their plan is wrong, if they're honest, they'll listen and maybe change what they're doing.
I mean, I agree. Those are good qualities of a would-be president. But at the same time, in that position, I would be worried that they had no kind of like, not necessarily just like political, but I mean, in dealing with at least, possibly other countries. Because you are the leader of a country, you are going to have to interact with other countries. You're going to have to make deals and sit down at summits with people.
Right, and I agree that foreign
person.
policy is a huge, if not the majority chunk of what the president is supposed to be doing. I agree with you on that, 100%. And I will.
And that's where a little bit of like politicking previous to lends a hand to the ability to be able to in future.
I still think if honesty is the only one I'm thinking of on short notice as a highly qualitative trait, I would think that if you could convince 300 million Americans that you're an honest and forthright person, you should be able to convince a couple people in the same room, whether they speak a different language or not, that you're actually at least acting in good faith. Because I think the number one issue in foreign policy is that it's a question of you're standing here in front of me telling me one.
That's what the assumption that all those people hired you just because, or not hired you, sorry, elected you, just because you were an honest person and that sole quality.
But I was just saying, if that quality exists in the person and you're doing foreign affairs,
but that
quality
doesn't
exists.
denote that was the reason you were elected. You're relying upon that quality being the sole thing that got one person elected.
I'm picking the one that we've at least agreed on as a good quality that a candidate should have to address your issues of foreign affairs.
It sounds like you've stretched that too, that they have then been elected because they are so honest. And that's why that many people voted them in.
I mean,
there are a lot of like one.
Obviously, that doesn't work. It doesn't work in politics, to be honest, because you don't get through the process.
You can't.
Not really. Bernie does.
I was about to say Bernie made it pretty far,
and on a fully populist swing, and then he got swindled out of his primary. Which again, he wasn't fully honest because he was running as a Democrat. He was never a Democrat. He's never been a Democrat. He's just closer to them, and he knows that's the only way you can win, is by being attached to one of the major parties.
Yeah. But
the major party was clear that they didn't want him there, and made sure that he didn't win a primary. Yeah. But I would think I don't know. That would be a start. I think that's a fair question, and I should flesh out my answer to that a little bit fuller. Maybe not right now in real time, but I do think that's a fair question. But I don't know that political experience would be a requirement for me. It's not a requirement for me. Having been a senator, having been a mayor or a governor is not a requirement for me.
A requirement, but I think it adds to the portfolio of.
I mean, I think it could, but I don't think it necessarily does. Okay, sure, you were a senator. What did you do as a senator? Did you advocate for on behalf of your citizenry? Were you a good team player in the party? What does that mean? I think I think if you're
they were honest and got elected.
I mean, I think if you sure, because I think you have a chance of maybe getting elected as a rep, not a senator. As in the House of Representatives as a more honest person. But when you got there, did you just fall in line with the party that you got one with, or did you stick to your guns? Did you make an issue of that thing even though the party didn't want you to?
Right. I mean, your track record is definitely going to follow you with you in that whatever position.
Right, except in the current system, that track record is, did you fall in line like you were supposed to? Because if you didn't, you're not going to win our primary anyway. And you don't have a shot. No matter how honest or good your attempts at what you were trying to do was, you didn't play by the rules that we set forth for you.
People have overcome it.
Yeah, Donald Trump.
I was about to say, yeah, Trump did.
Because he's a magician.
Yeah, he's a magician.
Teflon Don. I still think it still boggles my mind. Like I truly think the election of Donald Trump should have been treated as a cry for help. And it was treated as, you're just a bunch of dumb fucks. And instead of it being treated as since it was treated as a you idiots, how could you elect this guy? And since it was treated that way, all those people double down on it. There's a recent poll, I don't know if you heard about this one, there's a recent poll came out that people who plan on voting for Trump in the primary, there was I can't remember how exactly it was worded, but it was basically Who do you trust more? Trump, Republican leadership, your religious leader, your friends, your family?
Weird.
It is a weird polling question. And I don't know if it was, I don't know who the polling field was other than it was people who said that they plan on voting for Trump. The majority put Trump as their number one trustworthy person they believe first, before the media, before their family, before their preacher.
Right.
And I could see how one would construe that as you guys are dumb fucks. But I really think it's a lot of angry people that are tired of this machine, and the only way they feel like they can do something about it is to just throw shit at it, and Donald Trump is their shit. Because like it or not, is what he does.
As far as like throw their weight behind Trump?
Yeah. Okay. It's the only candidate that they've
had
had
not throwing their shit at it.
Well, Trump is their shit that they're throwing into the machine. It's their wrench they're throwing into the works. If we're going to mixing metaphors here,
gotcha.
Bring it back to a better metaphor. Donald Trump is the wrench they're throwing into the machine. Now he's not a good wrench. He's a rubbery piece of shit wrench that's not even going to break the machine. He failed to do it already, but that's the closest thing that they've gotten in their lifetime.
What are you talking about? He's going to go down as one of the greatest presidents.
But it's the closest thing that they've had in their lifetime to a candidate who actually might break it, and that's what they want. And I understand why they want that, because I kind of want it too.
I mean, if I could believe a word out of his mouth, I mean, the things he says sounds great, but it's...
Right, but you're stuck in, okay, we're going to round 2, 2024, Trump, Biden, and some random libertarian that nobody's ever heard of, maybe some Green Party person, and you're in that ballot box. What are you going to do?
Leave it blank.
Which, in the current era, I don't know what that means. Any Republican's going to tell you voted for Joe Biden, any Democrat's going to tell you by leaving it blank you voted for Trump, but, I don't know what that means in the grand scheme of things, but that
means I literally voted for no one.
Right. But, the analytics are going to be like, well, if you would have voted for Biden, he might have won Tennessee. And it's like, probably not. But that'd be the argument that they would throw out there.
Right.
I mean, that's what people told me when I said I was voting for Joe Jorgensen. They're like, you might as well vote for Joe Biden. It's like, I don't want to vote for Joe Biden. I want to vote for Joe Jorgensen. But if you're going to vote for Jorgensen, you're voting for Biden. I was like, no, I'm voting for Jorgensen. They're like, yeah, but, well, it could be, and it's like, okay, you're right. I get it. The math's going to make it so that, Trump doesn't win Tennessee by as many votes as he's going to win it by, but my one's not going to make a difference.
I don't know.
But it's, to me, it still sits in that same thing. We are still in this, somehow, I'm the only one crazy enough to think about it this way, which is not true, but we're somehow just kind of treating this Trump thing as a fever dream of a bunch of morons that live in this country, and they should be treated as such. And that's not
where are you getting this mentality from?
You don't think that you don't think that the left thinks that anybody that voted for Trump's an idiot?
I think it goes both ways on both sides. I don't think that validates either's opinion.
I mean, I agree that the hardcore Trump voter is going to call you a moron for voting for Biden. I agree with that.
I mean, but both sides are basically saying the same thing. You're stupid for following that person, voting for that person, or believing what that person says.
Okay.
Huh?
And it's not necessarily new either. It happened before Biden, Trump too. I don't know. Maybe it's just an offshoot of the degrading reality that.
I don't have a lot
that AB is the problem.
Right. I mean, I don't have a lot of political history, but I don't think it was really until Trump got elected that you kind of had this like quote unquote like not my president kind of like not really necessarily I want to call it an uprising, but I mean at least a small portion of the population. And maybe it was because we do have 24-hour news cycles, so some of those stories were able to come out.
What I know you didn't have was people holding on to their yard signs well after an election, and people like fanboying Trump or Biden for that matter well after election season like they do now.
I've seen some random ones.
Yeah, I see it all the time now. Every once in a while, but it's usually like old kind of like
sometimes it's just funny, like an old
like,
sticker that somebody's had on there forever.
Like Jimmy Carter. It's like, well, yeah, that's cute, hilarious. Your car's old enough to have an original Jimmy Carter sticker on it.
Carter Mondale, I think was his vice president. Yeah.
you're old enough that you can actually that car's old enough that bumper sticker makes sense.
Like I saw one that was like Trump DeSantis, and I'm assuming that's just in hope that they're going to join and be a ticket together.
Yeah, there's a guy around the corner that last cycle he had a. Is there anybody else, or anybody but? Huh. And it was Trump Biden on the same thing. It was like anybody but, which I thought was great.
Yeah,
that's a fun little pair of houses, which is a great example of the American dream. It's beautiful. It's two people live next door to each other, lived next door for the years. One of them's got their rainbow flags and their Biden and Kincaid and whoever the Democrat is in the conversation right now. The yard sounds out, and the one next door's got their Trump and whoever the Republican in the same thing, and they live next to each other, and they've lived next to each other for as long as I've lived here, so 10 years or so.
Yeah. As long as there's no been any beef.
It's not as far as I can tell. Even though I know the one on the corner has a big old fire pit in his front yard. I've never actually seen him burning in it, but I'll drive by and the pile is smaller. And that's a city property. And that's illegal.
You should call him in on it.
I haven't seen him in the act.
Ah, true.
Well, but then the shit part is if I do, the fire department comes out and puts it out for him, and he doesn't get a bill because he's a city resident.
Ah, fuck.
Where I get the county out here and they give me a $1,500 bill because they're rural metro. Dickheads.
Just tell them you're pretty sure it's in the county.
I mean, I know it's in the county. It's the city that didn't. It's the city. That's the KFD who didn't realize that they were in county.
Right.
You sure? Yes, sir. I'm sure I bought a house in the county and not in the city of Knoxville. But thank you for.
Thanks for caring.
Just walking in my yard and walking around my house as if you had the right to just walk on my property. But okay, whatever. I didn't think about that part at the time, so I didn't get to say it to him. But in hindsight, he just walked around into my backyard, just cause.
Trying to find the fire, or just cause?
I mean, I don't know what he was doing.
Oh, okay. He was just snooping.
I mean, that would be my opinion of what he was doing. He had no jurisdiction to be in my yard.
Oh, gotcha. He had no reason to be there. There wasn't a nearby fire that he might have been trying to locate.
I mean, maybe, I don't know.
Oh, maybe. Fireman. What could he possibly be looking around for? He's trying to snoop. That's what it is.
I don't know what he's doing.
He wants to take a look at your pool, and he's like, "Oh man, it's a badass pool."
It is. Actually, I didn't have the pool at the time, but
that'd be a badass spot for a pool.
That'd be a nice spot for a pool. I'm sure that's what he was thinking.
Cool.
I'm a fan of private property. I'm sorry.
I could see that, but I encourage you to be less, I guess, skeptical of firefighters. At least,
I mean, the guys in the red truck don't bother me. It's the guys in the green truck that do.
Gotcha.
Because the guys in the red truck don't send me a bill for tromping around my yard.
Well, I mean, you know now that they have no leg to stand on to charge you, so you have nothing to worry about on that end.
That's not true. They told me they were going to charge me if that ever happened again. So now I have a fucking panic attack every time the wife burns some yard debris in the backyard.
I'm pretty sure you could find. Well, yeah, you wouldn't qualify for a public defender, but that way, the suit wouldn't be against you.
I mean, I have county commissioners who support my viewpoint, but they don't have any authority over it. They can encourage rural metro as a private industry to not pursue those charges. That's about it.
I don't see what leg they have to stand on to charge you.
They came out. They performed their service. The truck left the station and came to my property. That is their service. And there you go. Charge me for that service. That's their stance. It'd be a fun court battle, I guess, because I have all the time in the world and money to spend on lawyers to fight that.
Because in that instance, like I don't think you literally had anything to worry about. You were within your means. You had your permit. You were burning, not during a no burn time.
It doesn't matter. That's what they told me. It does. That's what they told me. It doesn't matter.
I don't give a fuck what that private business told you.
Okay.
It's what
who is contracted with the county.
I don't give a fuck.
Okay. All right, you'll be my attorney for it then, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, football's coming back.
I mean, there's nothing they can do. It's fuck on them because someone else called them to their properties that there was no reason for them to come out to.
Okay, I'll look into I'll see if I can't get a copy of their contract with the county, because they are contracted with the county to answer 911 calls.
I mean, that's cool. They showed up, but they can't charge you for a call that they didn't have to do anything to. Like, you had nothing to do with them being called out. It's one thing if you called them out, like, hey, I think this fire may be getting out of control. I may need your help. This is someone else called them to your property when there was no fire going on that was outside of anything normal.
I agree with you, but that doesn't mean that they won't. They won't.
I'm pretty sure that
they won't send the bill.
How it sits legally.
Okay, that is not how it was explained to me by them among other people.
I could be wrong.
I mean, as stated to me by Rural Metro's collections official, whatever their head of collections, whatever is that we have the right through our contract with the county of Knoxville. We have the obligation with our contract that we have with Knox County to respond to any and all 911 calls that are outside of city jurisdiction that are involving fire,
and recoup the cost of our
and
services.
if we respond to a call, we will bill the destination of said call. That is their contract with the county. Unless that destination is a member of our services, then that is part of their membership benefits. So for all intents and purposes, right? That's how we say it? Intents and purposes.
Yeah, I believe it's intents and purposes.
For all intents and purposes, it is a private tax on county residents for fire coverage.
Oh, it's pseudo insurance from a private company. It says, hey, you pay this much per year. If we come out there, we don't charge you.
Okay, 6 or a half dozen on that one. That's we can follow either rabbit hole down. It's the same thing. It's a tax if you need, because if you're paying taxes on it, you don't pay for individual services.
Do you have an option to pay tax?
No.
Okay, so are they the same thing?
Do you have an option to pay homeowners insurance? Do you have an option to pay car insurance?
If you're paying, no. In most states, no.
You don't. All right, I agree. You don't have an option to pay for car insurance.
Okay. Do you have the option to pay for the rural metro, whatever?
No,
you don't.
Not if they come out to my house.
So they've come out here and they've told you have to pay this every year?
No.
Okay. So do you have to pay it?
You need to ask your questions correctly if you're going to get on my answers.
I'm asking them very directly.
They're not.
Do you have to pay
because
this?
If they come to my house, I have to pay them. Yes. That is their
That's not what I'm
stance.
talking about. I'm talking about, do you have to
Do I have to pay their membership fee? No.
Do you have to pay their membership fee? Okay.
No, I don't.
Is it a tax?
I guess you're right. It's closer to an insurance.
Okay. That's all I'm trying to say. You're trying to say it's
Okay.
half dozen, same thing.
It's
This,
more or less.
this is two totally fucking different things.
What a random little subpoint to hold you to Hilda die on in this argument.
I'm going to push back on this. This is not the same fucking thing.
Okay, you're right. It's close. To me, it's close enough. It feels the same because it is not.
You just see it as an unjust cost, and I'm saying these are two totally different things. You're viewing it in your own viewpoint of just an unjust cost upon your living.
Okay.
That's why I think you view it as a tax. It's just a tax on me.
Well, that's assuming that any tax is unjust to me.
Which is how you view most taxes.
Sure, you're right. Most of them I do.
Right.
Okay, so, all right. So one of the questions I ask you all the time, and we'll do News of the Weird after this. I'll try to keep this one short. So one of the questions I ask you all the time.
You ask me a repeated question
right,
that
all the time.
I've probably avoided many a time.
Well, maybe we could start it here, and then on the road trip tomorrow, we could do a 5-hour session that's just on this topic, and we'll just warm it up on this one.
What do you want?
If you guys want to get deep on this, listen to the next episode. It's going to be a 6-hour epic.
I don't think so. I can stay fucking silent.
Okay, so I ask all the time about, like, what is government supposed to do?
Oh,
that one?
No, let's not do this.
That one?
No, we're not doing this.
Because, like, things that I think the government's supposed to do would be some of the preparatory stuff in, was it Maui? So that the whole island doesn't burn to the ground. That would be something that I would think the government should have done. There's an invasive grass species. The electrical company itself was asking for some money because they needed to do some specific upgrades because in a certain windstorm it is likely that they're going to have some issues. And many people in professional capacities that understand these kind of things were warning about stuff like this, and nothing was done. And half an island burns down. At least 100 people are known to be dead. There's still like 700 people missing or something like that. And we're like 2 weeks in.
I think just announced it's down to like 300, at least unidentified or missing.
That's good. That's better.
Yeah.
But it's also 2 weeks later, and it's an island, so it's not like they could.
It's been 2 weeks now?
It's been like it was before last episode.
Was it?
And then like the whole FEMA response and that kind of stuff. And I understand it's an island way out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, so it might take a second to get a lot of the aid into place. But things like that those are things that I think government should do and be pretty fucking good at. Okay, you missed the preventative stuff you could have done, and then just to throw an incendiary bomb on our way out.
How often do we do preventative stuff anyway?
Not enough, and I think that's something that the government should be doing. and I think the Maui one is a specifically good example.
Where do you get the money to do that?
Because at the same time, the President of the United States says all the residents are going to get $700 check to their whatever they paid their taxes from account, like we got during the pandemic and shit like that, to help them, get some food and get whatever they need to get to survive this fucking craziness. $700. It's better than nothing. I guess we won't complain. The same day, we sent $25 billion to Ukraine.
Okay.
Do you think $700 is enough to get these people back on their feet? You're right. It's not a zero-sum game. We could do both things at the same time.
Did we give every citizen in Ukraine or a city of Ukraine or a province of Ukraine $700?
I don't know how many residents.
Okay.
How many residents live in the sovereign state of Ukraine?
No idea.
How many $1 billion would we need to send over there before all of them got averaged out to about $700?
No idea. Again, I just told you I don't know the total population, so I don't know why you want to ask me the calculations to another equation that I obviously don't know the answer to.
I'm guessing, I don't know. Do you think 100 million people live there? I have no idea. That's a good question. I'll have to look it up. We'll talk about that more later because I think that's a thing. Like I said, I don't want to go the rabbit hole thing. I just think that
I don't know why you want to.
I'm not trying to attack that thing.
It's like the second time in like 2 straight episodes where you just want to like bring up Ukraine. I'm going to say what the. Why? Why?
I don't know.
I don't know why this is like stuck on your fucking head.
Well, because I think, like I said, I think I found something that I think the government should be able to do and do consistently and efficiently and quickly, and that would be help its own residents out in a time of need, like it's a natural disaster. Okay, we fucked up the preparation. We could have avoided this maybe. We fucked that up, fine. But some sort of response that makes these people whole in the process and gets them back on their feet and helps them rebuild and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think
there's something we could kind of push.
I think we've sent some people to the Canadian to help them fight some wildfires. Should we ask them for money because we help them out?
Who said anything about asking? Did I say something about asking Ukraine to send us money?
No, but I'm just saying it's just help we're giving to other places.
I mean, at least Canada makes sense because it has some.
Obviously there's a cost to it,
us,
and obviously we're not going to ask Canada for the cost of the help that we gave them.
I mean, I think but there is.
Should we?
There is
should we ask for how much it cost them? Cost us to send firefighters and helicopters?
Yeah,
flame retardants up there.
Yeah, okay. If it's going to be that simple of a question, yeah. If you want our help, you should pay for it. Yeah,
gotcha.
I mean, if we can't pay to fix our own shit and help our own people out, then if we're helping other people out, yeah, I think it's fair to ask for some sort of recuperation for that.
Okay.
Because I think we could do better, by our own before we do better by others. I don't think that's I guess in phrasing it sounds super selfish, but I don't think it's a selfish thing in the governmental version of conversation. You exist because we are here, and you exist to serve us by definition.
Who? Wait, what? Who exists to serve what?
The government. All said versions of the government exist to serve us, the people, at least in the democratic Western version of governments. I mean, we're not like, the royal family of old where the people exist to serve the family. It's supposed to be the government exists to serve the people, right? That's how this thing's set up.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think if you're set up to serve the people you represent, you should start with helping make sure they can get through a day before you go elsewhere. I think that would be a fair stance. A little isolationist. I know. I'm terrible. News of the weird.
A power outage in New Jersey was due to an unlikely culprit, a fish likely put there by a bird.
Bird drops a fish on a transformer. Pop.
Yep. Exactly.
I don't know. Depends where in New Jersey. Like, if it's like Jersey City, Newark.
Sayreville? I don't know.
Where's Sayreville, New Jersey? If it's on the shore.
So it said how many people are in the community, I want to say.
You know, if it's on, you know, if it's right outside of Atlantic City or something like that, on the beach, meh.
Community southwest of New York, Staten Island, so I guess it's close to metropolitan area.
Yeah. I mean, because Staten, yeah. So it's on the Hudson / Atlantic Ocean right there. Yeah.
Apparently they named it Gilligan.
The fish?
Yeah. No, the bird.
The bird?
Oh, no. I think they
named the electrocuted fish Gilligan.
The victim in this senseless death, dubbing him Gilligan and calling him a hardworking family man and a father to thousands.
Damn.
They said the suspect, they said...
They bothered figuring out what gender the fish was, or they're just making it up?
They're just making it up.
Okay.
The suspect, they said, was last seen flying south. And readers were encouraged not to apprehend him because, although he isn't believed to be armed, he may still be very dangerous.
Sure. Watch out there, D.C. and all the other
He's coming for you.
He's coming down. He's on the rampage, screaming jihad. I heard him say it.
Cover up your power poles.
That's why they should be all buried anyway. Anything else you got? Any other ridiculous? Anything to correct the record?
Not that I can think of.
All right, cool. I can push buttons. Almost Agreement did a show. Thanks for listening, everybody. I don't know. Tune in next week. I don't know. We may fuck around and tape a little bit on the road. We got a road trip up to my grandmother's house. The last couple of things to get out of there. It's finally sold. It's off the docket. We don't have to deal with that anymore. I've got a couple of keepsakes to get out of there before it gets taken over by the new owners. So we're Almost Agreement. AlmostAgreement@gmail.com. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, on YouTube. We'll go to the website, AlmostAgreement.com. While you're there, check out all the prior episodes. Go check out some interviews I've done with people over time. Shoot me an email, AlmostAgreement@gmail.com, or there's a link or submission space on the website too. You can do it from there. Favorite podcast provider, like, share, friend, follow, 5-star review, anything you can do to help us get the word out. We're going to keep talking about what we talk about and maybe get smarter in the process. Probably not. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll talk to you all soon.